Have you ever stopped for a moment and asked yourself, why is it that after a true awakening, after your soul has tasted clarity, the idea of falling in love suddenly feels almost impossible? Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, gave us a disturbing truth. Most of what we call love is not love at all. It is projection. It is your unconscious mind taking the wounds you haven't healed, the fantasies you secretly carry, and painting them onto another person. And then, intoxicated by your own imagination, you bow down to that creation and call it love. But awakening. Awakening is brutal honesty. It is the moment the veil drops, the trance shatters. You no longer see the fantasy, you see reality. And once you see reality, raw, unfiltered, undeniable, you can never unsee it. The old game of falling loses its magic. The mask cracks, the play is exposed. And here's the paradox. What feels at first like the death of love is actually the birth of love in its purest form. Chapter 1. Love as Projection. Carl Jung revealed a truth most people never dare to face. When we say we are in love, we are rarely in love with another human being. We are in love with our own reflection, our anima or animus, the hidden archetype of femininity or masculinity that lives in our unconscious. The person in front of us becomes a canvas, and our psyche begins painting. Their smile, their voice, their presence, all glow with colors borrowed from our own inner world. This is why falling in love feels like magic. It is not their essence we are drowning in. It is our own projections reflected back at us like a beautiful mirror. Think about it carefully. You meet someone and without effort your imagination begins to weave. Memory, fantasy, longing, all rushing together like threads spun by an invisible spider. And soon, what you adore is not their real self, but an image your mind has created. Their eyes sparkle because you put your hope there. Their words seem profound because your longing gave them weight. You say, I love them. But in truth, you love the unconscious story you've painted over them. Carl Jung called this projection the psyche projecting its inner contents outward, tricking you into believing it is destiny. This explains why love often burns brightest in absence, not in presence. Notice how passion explodes when there is distance, uncertainty, or waiting. The less you truly know the person, the stronger the fantasy becomes. Why? Because projection thrives in the unknown. Your unconscious fills the gaps with its own drama, dressing emptiness with the clothes of desire. The ego then declares this theater to be true love. But awakening cracks the screen. You begin to notice, it wasn't them. It was me. My own unhealed hunger, my own unmet longing, projected onto their face. Awakening is brutal because it strips away this illusion. The magic doesn't disappear and it is exposed. You realize the love that once set you on fire was actually your own psyche searching for completion. The longing wasn't proof of destiny, it was evidence of your incompleteness. And this is the most painful revelation Jung's psychology delivers. When you fall in love blindly, you are not truly meeting another soul. You are meeting the unlived parts of yourself. The person is not a partner. They are a mirror reflecting the void you carry within. This realization can feel like betrayal. You remember the nights you swore they were your missing half. You remember the electricity that made you believe the universe itself was pulling you together. But Jung shows us the truth, that electricity was not cosmic fate, but the collision between your unconscious and their presence. The image you loved was never them. It was your shadowed desires demanding attention. And when this recognition takes root, you can never again throw yourself into love blindly. The trance is gone, the dream is broken. Yet this breaking is also the beginning of freedom. Because when projection dissolves, you finally see the person as they are, flawed, human, whole in themselves. No longer an idol, no longer a savior, no longer the missing half of your soul. Just a human being with their own light and their own shadows. And when you see clearly, you stop worshipping masks. You stop mistaking longing for love. You no longer beg someone else to complete you, because you understand what Jung always taught. Wholeness can only be found within. And this is why, after awakening, falling in love as before feels almost impossible. The old intoxication loses its grip. The fire that once consumed now reveals itself as smoke. And though it may look like loss to the unawakened, in truth it is liberation. Because when projection ends, love transforms. It ceases to be obsession, hunger, or fantasy. It becomes presence, silent, steady, alive. A flame that does not burn chaotically, but warms endlessly. A love that no longer says, "I need you to fill me," but whispers, "I see you as you are and I choose to share." Jung's insight is devastating yet divine. Most people will never escape projection, and so their love will always be unstable. But for the awakened, the spell is broken. You can still love, but it is no longer blindness. It is clarity. You can still feel passion, but it is no longer rooted in emptiness. It is born of wholeness. And in that wholeness, love becomes rare, yet infinitely more precious. Because when you no longer fall, you rise into a love that is not projection, but truth. And that truth is stronger than any illusion the unconscious could ever weave. Chapter 2. The Shadow and the Illusion of Passion. Carl Jung believed that what we often glorify as passion is rarely love at all. It is the shadow, the repressed part of ourselves, demanding to be seen. The trembling hunger for someone's touch, the obsessive fear of losing them, the sleepless nights we romanticize. These are not signs of divine love, but symptoms of a wound we refuse to face. Instead of doing shadow work, instead of sitting with our emptiness, we disguise it as romance. Awakening tears off this disguise. It forces us to confront the truth. The fire we once called passion was nothing but our shadow burning in secret. Think of how often we confuse intensity with love. The racing heartbeat, the desperate messages, the anxiety when they don't respond. We baptize these symptoms as proof of deep connection. But Jung would say, no, this is not connection. It is projection of fear. The ego does not admit weakness. It decorates loneliness with the mask of passion. You are not loving them. You are begging them to soothe your shadow. And until you awaken, this illusion feels irresistible, because it hides the truth you fear most. You are not whole within yourself. Awakening is like turning on a light in a dark theater. Suddenly, the drama that once left you breathless now looks staged, almost artificial. You see the script your ego wrote. Promise you'll never leave. Make me feel special. Fill the void I cannot face. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Passion loses its glitter. The trembling intensity collapses into silence. And you realize, what I thought was love was my fear of abandonment wearing perfume, whispering sweet lines to keep me asleep. This is why so many relationships burn out as quickly as they ignite. The fuel was never love, it was insecurity, and insecurity always runs dry. Jung's psychology exposes this game with ruthless clarity. Obsession is not devotion, and hunger is not love. Real love does not shake with terror. Real love does not collapse in absence. Only the shadow does. Awakening strips this truth bare, and though painful, it is the beginning of freedom. For when the illusion of passion dies, something stronger is born. Clarity. But make no mistake, clarity is not empty. When obsession fades, when the trembling quiets, what remains is a deeper presence. A love that does not beg, a love that does not enslave, a love that does not need theatrics to prove its existence. This is why awakened love feels calmer, quieter, less dramatic, but infinitely more real. The shadow no longer manipulates, the ego no longer demands. What is left is truth, and though the world may find it less exciting, the awakened know this is the only love worth trusting, worth. The danger of shadow illusion love is that it feeds on absence, not presence. Notice how passion often intensifies when the person is gone, when there is uncertainty, when the heart burns in jealousy or longing. That fire feels irresistible because it thrives on lack. But awakening reveals the trick. If passion requires absence to survive, it is not love. It is hunger. True love does not vanish when peace arrives. Only illusions do. The awakened heart no longer confuses torment with beauty. This is why awakened ones find it so hard to fall in love like before. They cannot pretend the hunger is noble. They cannot worship the drama, knowing it was born from their own shadow. Awakening does not destroy the ability to love. It destroys the willingness to confuse fear with love. And though this clarity feels like loss, it is liberation. For once you see that passion was a mask, you refuse to play that role again. You choose to face the shadow instead of disguising it. And here lies Jung's deepest lesson. Passion built on the shadow is unstable, temporary, bound to collapse. But passion transformed through awakening becomes strength. When you face your shadow, when you no longer need another to silence it, love finally rises beyond illusion. No longer a desperate fire, but a steady flame. No longer hunger, but wholeness. And though the world may never understand, the awakened heart knows this truth. When the shadow is faced, love is reborn, not as madness, but as clarity. Chapter 3. Individuation and Wholeness. Carl Jung described the greatest journey of the human soul with one word: individuation. It is the process of becoming whole within yourself, of reconciling your conscious and unconscious, of integrating the shadow you once denied and the light you once feared to claim. Before awakening, we chase love as if another human being is the missing piece of our soul. We beg, complete me, save me, make me whole. But after awakening, the truth dawns with cutting clarity. No one can complete you because you were never incomplete. The self, the wholeness of who you are, was always there, buried beneath illusions. Look at how society has trained us. From childhood, stories and songs teach us that somewhere out there is the one, the person who will heal our wounds, silence our loneliness, and give us meaning. But Jung would call this a dangerous myth, for it keeps us from facing ourselves. Instead of integrating our shadow and our light, we project that task onto another. We make them responsible for the wholeness only we can achieve. Awakening shatters this myth. You see that no partner, no lover, no savior can finish what was always yours to begin with. Individuation is not easy, and that's why most people avoid it. It means facing the loneliness you tried to escape. It means sitting with the fear you kept disguising as passion. It means acknowledging your own darkness and still daring to claim your own light. But Jung taught that only by walking this path can love transform, because once you stand whole in yourself, love ceases to be a bargain of need. It no longer whispers, "I need you to fix me." Instead, it proclaims, "I am whole, and I see you as whole. Let us walk together freely." Think of how different this is from ordinary love. Ordinary love trembles with insecurity. Do they still love me? Will they stay? Am I enough? Awakened love is calm. It does not beg. It does not demand. It is not intoxicated by drama, because drama is the symptom of incompleteness. Individuated love is two rivers flowing side by side, powerful on their own, yet choosing to merge for a stretch of eternity. There is no desperation, no clinging, no fear of loss. Only the clarity of presence, only the joy of sharing. This is why so many relationships collapse after the initial intoxication fades. If love is built on projection, it cannot endure. If it is built on shadow, it will consume itself. But love born out of individuation carries a different weight. It does not rely on hunger, it does not rely on illusion. It thrives because both people stand whole within themselves. Their bond is not a chain, but a bridge. And when that bridge is built on wholeness, no storm can tear it down. The awakened realize something shocking. It is better to stand whole and alone than broken and dependent, because the loneliness of being incomplete in a relationship is far greater than the solitude of standing whole by yourself. Jung believed this solitude is sacred. It is the silence in which individuation blooms, the space in which the self emerges. And once that self is born, you stop looking outward for completion. You stop begging others to silence your shadow. You carry your own light, and suddenly love becomes a gift, not a survival need. Imagine the power of this kind of love. No jealousy, because you are not afraid of being abandoned. No obsession, because you are not clinging to someone to fill your emptiness. No manipulation, because you are not using them as a crutch. Instead, you love because you can, not because you must. This love is freer, stronger, deeper than the world understands. It does not burn chaotically like a wildfire. It burns steadily, like an eternal flame. And this flame is lit only in the heart of one who has become whole. This is the paradox Jung leaves us with. Before individuation, love feels urgent, intoxicating, addictive. After individuation, love feels calm, rare, and sacred. The old falling in love becomes impossible because there is nothing left to fall into. You are already standing whole. Love now becomes a conscious choice, not projection, not shadow, not bargaining, but sharing. And though fewer people will meet you here, the ones who do will meet you fully. For wholeness attracts wholeness, and in that meeting the awakened discover the truest form of love. Not two halves becoming one, but two wholes creating infinity. Chapter 4, The End of the Old Theatre. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But awakening teaches us something deeper. Transformation is not dependency. Before awakening, romance feels like a stage play full of roles we're desperate to perform: the savior, the victim, the soulmate, the one who completes the other. The drama feels sacred, the lines rehearsed for centuries. But when clarity comes, the curtain drops. You see the stage for what it is, theatre. You may still laugh, cry, even enjoy the performance, but you can no longer mistake it for truth. The illusion has lost its spell. Think about how love stories are sold to us. The forever after, the dramatic confessions, the painful breakups followed by passionate reunions. Society celebrates this as proof of true love. But Jung's psychology cuts through this noise. He tells us that much of what we call romance is just archetypes playing out: hero and maiden, rescuer and rescued, hunter and prey. It feels profound, but it is the unconscious recycling old scripts. Awakening is like sitting in the audience and realizing, I have seen this play before. I know how it ends, and suddenly you are no longer captivated by the performance. When you awaken, the theatre of romance feels strangely hollow. The lines that once made you weep now sound rehearsed. The gestures that once made you tremble now look exaggerated. You still respect the actors, but you know they are acting. And this is the transformation. Love no longer feels like life or death. The passion no longer consumes you because you've seen the machinery behind it. What once looked like magic is revealed as smoke and mirrors. And once you see it, you cannot be tricked again. This does not mean that awakened people reject love or mock romance. No, they can still enjoy it, participate in it, even embrace its beauty. But they do so with awareness. They know the difference between a performance and reality. They know that the desperate clinging, the endless drama, the vows of eternal possession, these are lines written by the ego. Awakening frees you from confusing the play with truth. And so you can watch with compassion, even smile at its beauty. But your heart is no longer enslaved by its illusions. The danger of the old theatre is that it keeps us asleep. As long as we play our roles, we never face our deeper selves. The mask of the lover keeps us from seeing the shadow within. The fantasy of being completed keeps us from realizing we were always whole. Awakening ends this cycle. You put down the script, you step off the stage. And though the world may still be acting, you are no longer trapped in the drama. You stand in the silence of truth, watching the play for what it is. At first, this feels like loss. You may miss the adrenaline of the old theatre, the jealousy, the tears, the fever of obsession. But slowly, you realize that what you mistook for love was only performance. Awakening offers you something far greater: peace. No more pretending, no more bargaining, no more mistaking need for devotion. The fire of drama fades, and in its place rises a calmer flame, one that does not blind you, but warms you. And in that warmth you discover a love stronger than any play could ever script. This is why the awakened often feel misunderstood. Others look at them and say, "You've grown cold, you don't fall in love anymore." But the truth is the opposite. The awakened have not lost love. They have lost illusion. They cannot pretend the theatre is real when they have seen the stage from behind. They cannot confuse projection with devotion, roles with reality. Their love now is not performance, not dependency, not possession. It is awareness, presence, and freedom. So the curtain falls on the old theatre, and with it the spell breaks. You can still love, but it is no longer the feverish love of need. You can still share passion, but it is no longer chained to fear. You can still walk with another, but not because they complete you and because they are whole and so are you. This is the end of the old theatre, when love ceases to be drama and becomes truth. And once you have tasted this clarity, no stage, no script, no illusion will ever bind your heart again. Chapter 5. Awakened Love. So what remains after the illusions have burned away? After projection collapses, after the shadow has been faced, after individuation reveals your wholeness, what remains is a love so rare, so quiet, so sacred that most people will never encounter it. Jung would say this is love born of individuation, not two halves begging for completion, but two whole beings meeting freely. It is not possession, not obsession, not fear. It is presence, two flames burning side by side, each with its own fire, yet warming each other without stealing the other's light. This love does not cling, it does not demand, it does not enslave. It simply is. Ordinary love trembles with insecurity. It asks, will you stay? Do you still love me? Am I enough? Awakened love asks nothing. It flows silently because it is not rooted in lack. There is no fear of abandonment because you are already whole. There is no projection because you see the other as they truly are, and there is no bargaining because you do not need their presence to survive. This is why awakened love appears calm, almost uneventful to the unawakened. They mistake the absence of drama for the absence of love, but in truth, it is the absence of illusion. Imagine two rivers, each strong, each alive, each flowing with its own direction and force. When they meet, they do not collapse into one, losing their identity. They flow side by side, shaping a greater stream without losing themselves. This is awakened love. Two individuals who no longer fear solitude, no longer seek completion in another, but choose to walk together. The bond is not made of chains, but of freedom. And in that freedom, the connection becomes infinitely stronger than any contract fear could ever write. Jung's wisdom was ruthless. Only the individuated can truly love. Why? Because only those who have faced their shadow and claimed their wholeness can meet another without masks. If you are still seeking rescue, you will call need love. If you are still escaping your loneliness, you will call projection passion. But when you awaken, you no longer confuse hunger with love. You no longer build relationships as bargains of need. Instead, you meet from fullness. And love born of fullness is so rare, so precious, it feels almost otherworldly. This is why awakened love is uncommon. Most people are still chasing illusions, still addicted to the theatre of drama. They mistake jealousy for devotion, absence for passion, obsession for proof. The awakened cannot play that game. They cannot pretend blindness is beauty or that chains are affection. And so, awakened love becomes selective. Fewer people can walk with you. The crowd disperses because few have done the same inner work. Yet those who remain, those who have also touched their own wholeness, with them, love becomes infinite. The awakened heart does not say, I need you. It says, I choose you. And there is a world of difference between the two. Need creates chains. Choice creates freedom. Need suffocates. Choice breathes. Need begs for rescue. Choice celebrates presence. Awakened love is built not on promises of eternity, but on the clarity of now. It says, I do not need you to survive, but I walk with you because in your presence, my wholeness finds joy. That is love in its most authentic form, free, clear, radiant. To the world, this love may look too detached, too silent, too calm. People who are addicted to chaos cannot understand love without drama. But the awakened heart smiles at such accusations, because when you have tasted the steady flame of wholeness, you no longer crave the wildfire of illusion. You no longer mistake noise for depth. Love becomes a quiet strength, a constant warmth. It ceases to be a storm that destroys and becomes a river that nourishes. And in that simplicity, it becomes eternal. So what then remains? A love that is rare, a love that cannot be faked, cannot be manufactured, cannot be bought by promises or vows. It is the love of two individuated souls, each complete, each free, choosing to share their journey. And though such love is uncommon when it appears, it is more precious than diamonds, more enduring than fire. This is the paradox of awakening. You may fall in love less often, but when you do, it is no longer falling. It is rising. Rising into a love without chains, without illusions, a love born of freedom, clarity, and truth. Chapter 6. The Strange Solitude. Awakening often delivers a gift wrapped in silence, solitude, not loneliness, but a vast, echoing clarity that feels both liberating and heavy. Carl Jung called this the burden of consciousness. Once the light has touched your eyes, you can never return to the old darkness. You see the illusions, the games, the masks that once kept you enchanted. And because you see too much, you cannot go back. The crowd disperses, not because you left them, but because most people are still hungry for illusions. What they call love you now recognize as projection. What they call passion you see as shadow. And so you walk a quieter road. At first, this solitude feels like exile. You stand in a room full of voices, but none of them reach you. They are still repeating the lines of the old play, still worshipping the stage you have walked away from. You smile, you converse, you even participate, but deep down you are no longer there. A part of you observes, detached, lucid, unable to pretend, and this distance is not chosen. It is the natural consequence of awakening. Jung said that true consciousness always separates, because to see clearly is to stand apart from the crowd. This solitude can feel unbearable. The warmth of illusions is gone. The intoxication of projection has died. What remains is silence, vast and unmoving. And in that silence, you realize how much of what you once called love was really fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of not being seen. Awakening rips these fears from their disguises. You can no longer hide behind them. The ropes that once bound you to others unravel at the slightest touch, and suddenly you are left facing yourself. Entirely, unforgivingly. But in this solitude lies a paradoxical freedom. No longer are you enslaved to the hunger of needing someone else to validate your worth. No longer are you chained to the fear of abandonment. For the first time, you discover that you can stand alone, whole, awake, aware. The solitude is vast, yes, but within it lies a peace the old theatre never gave you. It is the peace of authenticity, the peace of no longer needing to perform, the peace of finally living without illusions. Still, the world misunderstands this solitude. They look at the awakened and whisper, "He has grown cold, she no longer loves." But the awakened heart is not cold. It is clear. It no longer mistakes chains for affection, drama for passion, hunger for devotion. To those still asleep, this clarity looks distant. To those still addicted to the old fire, it looks detached. But in truth, it is love in its rarest form. Love without illusion. And that is why the awakened often walk alone, waiting for another who has also crossed through the shadows into wholeness. This strange solitude is not punishment. It is purification. It teaches you to love yourself, to embrace your own company, to find depth in silence. Jung believed individuation required this withdrawal, a step back from the collective illusions so that the self can emerge. And though the journey feels isolating, it prepares you for a love far greater than the old theatre. Only when you can stand alone without fear can you truly walk beside another without chains. Solitude, then, is not emptiness. It is preparation. The solitude of awakening is vast because your vision has expanded. You see truths others are not ready to see. You sense illusions others still call love. You recognize wounds others still worship as passion, and so your path feels lonely. But it is the loneliness of being ahead, not behind. You are not abandoned. You are simply walking in spaces most have not yet reached, and in that vast silence, your soul grows stronger, sharper, freer than it ever was before. This is Jung's gift and curse. Once you awaken, you cannot go back to sleep. You cannot unknow what you now know. And yes, this clarity may scatter the crowd. Yes, it may isolate you from the world's illusions. But it also births something infinitely more precious, the strength to love without masks, to live without lies, to stand whole even in solitude. For the awakened, this strange solitude is not the end. It is the beginning, the foundation upon which awakened love can finally be born. Chapter 7. The New Definition of Love. Awakening redefines love at its very core. Carl Jung would say that once the unconscious and conscious unite, the illusions of love dissolve. No longer does the awakened heart beg for eternity or cling to promises. It no longer seeks contracts or guarantees. Instead, it lives in the now, alive, present, free. To the unawakened, this love looks detached, almost too calm to be real. But in truth, this is love in its purest form, not projection, not hunger, not shadow, but presence. Love without illusion, a union that does not bind but liberates. Ordinary love makes demands. It says, "Swear to never leave me, promise forever." Awakened love makes no such bargains. It knows that eternity cannot be spoken into existence. It lives fully in the moment, knowing the now is the only eternity we truly possess. This does not make it shallow. On the contrary, it makes it deeper, more profound. Every touch, every glance, every silence shared becomes infinitely more precious, because it is free from the weight of false promises. To those still trapped in illusions, awakened love can seem cold. They see no jealousy, no clinging, no trembling fear, and they mistake this for detachment. But they are wrong. The absence of drama is not the absence of love, it is the absence of illusion. The awakened heart no longer plays roles written by the ego. It does not confuse possession with devotion or obsession with intimacy. Its silence is not emptiness. Its calm is not distance. Its clarity is strength. Jung would call this the union of opposites, the conscious and unconscious, the shadow and the light, the masculine and feminine within. When these forces reconcile inside you, love outside you changes forever. No longer is it a desperate attempt to heal through another. No longer is it a projection of the unhealed self. It becomes an honest meeting of equals, whole unto themselves. This is why awakened love is rare. Few people reach this inner union, and without it, outer union is bound to remain tangled in illusion. Awakened love thrives on presence, not performance. There is no need for grand gestures, no hunger for constant reassurance. It is not about proving devotion. It is about being. Sitting in silence together feels enough. Walking side by side without words feels complete. Because awakened love knows, it is not what you do to impress, but who you are in presence that makes love real. Every moment becomes sacred because it is stripped of illusion. This new definition of love is freedom. Freedom from chains disguised as vows. Freedom from contracts disguised as devotion. Freedom from illusions disguised as passion. But freedom does not weaken love. It strengthens it. Because when you are free to leave, your choice to stay becomes powerful. When you are free from need, your gift of presence becomes sacred. When you are free from illusion, what remains is truth, and truth is unshakable. To live this love requires courage, because the world does not understand it. They will say you don't truly love unless you cling, unless you fight, unless you burn with jealousy. But the awakened heart smiles. It knows that love without fear is not weakness. It is the highest strength. It knows that love without chains is not indifference. It is the purest devotion. This is the love the awakened carry, silent, strong, alive. Rare, yet more real than any drama the ego could create. And so love is redefined. No longer a fever that consumes, but a flame that warms endlessly. No longer a storm of projection, but a clear sky of presence. No longer two halves searching for completion, but two wholes meeting in freedom. This is Jung's vision of awakened love. Not need, not illusion, but truth. And though the world may never fully understand, those who have walked through the fire of awakening know, this love, rare as it is worth everything. For it is the only love that endures when illusions fall away. Conclusion: the freedom of the awakened heart. So why do the awakened no longer fall in love? Because they no longer fall at all. Falling implies blindness, surrendering to illusions, mistaking hunger for passion. The awakened do not stumble into love, they walk into it with eyes open. They are no longer driven by emptiness but guided by fullness. They no longer seek someone to complete them because they have discovered their own wholeness. And once you have tasted this wholeness, you will never again confuse drama with devotion, need with love, or illusion with truth. The freedom of the awakened heart lies in choice. Love is no longer a survival mechanism, no longer a bargain of shadows. It is a conscious decision. They do not say, "I cannot live without you." They say, "I can live without you, but I choose to walk with you." This is a love far stronger than dependency. It is not a chain but a bond. It is not desperation but devotion born of clarity. Such love does not enslave, it liberates. And in that liberation, it becomes rare, profound, and unshakable. To the world this may look cold. To those who still worship illusions, it may seem detached. But in truth, awakened love is warmer, deeper, and stronger than any feverish obsession. It is calm because it is not afraid. It is steady because it is not needy. It is clear because it is not built on fantasy. This is why the awakened no longer fall in love, because what they carry is not falling, not blindness, not projection. It is presence, and presence is stronger than any illusion. This is the paradox Jung leaves us with. Awakening does not kill love. It purifies it. It strips away the roles, the masks, the shadows, until only truth remains. And that truth is not fragile, not temporary, not dependent. It is eternal in its simplicity. When two whole beings meet, there is no need for contracts or performances. There is only presence. And in that presence lies the freedom of the awakened heart. A love without illusions, a love without fear, a love that rises instead of falls. If Jung's philosophy touched something in you today, don't keep it to yourself. Share this message with someone who may still be chasing illusions of love. Let them see what love looks like without masks. And now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe love is mostly projection, or do you believe it is truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your words might awaken someone else's heart today.